Void Miner, Echoes of Helix, Chapter 6, Echoes in the Dark. The seed pulsed again, not visibly. Its surface remained inert, locked inside the containment module buried beneath 2 meters of alloy bulkhead in the Dust Widow's lower decks. But Arg felt it, a thrum through the ship's systems, a tightening in his chest, a heaviness in the way his thoughts moved, like his mind was swimming through half-set concrete. It wasn't pain, not yet, but it was growing. Kara was the first to notice the difference. She stood in the corridor just outside the sealed containment room, hands at her side, face pale and drawn. "Arg," she said, her voice low. "It's doing something. I think it knows we're close." He joined her, nodding silently. The last few jumps had brought them within striking range of the projected coordinates. Coordinates extrapolated from the data pack Silas Rel had sent weeks earlier. A triangulated cluster of ancient signal pings layered beneath old Helix mapping algorithms. Rel had decrypted the framework, but left a deeper meaning for Arg and Holt to unravel. Now those coordinates were leading them towards something, another piece of whatever the seed truly was, and it seems the seed itself had begun to respond. Holt stood nearby, arms crossed, scanning Kara. "You all right?" "No," she admitted, "but I'm not breaking apart. It's not that kind of signal. It's more like—" She hesitated, searching for the words. "Something trying to remember." Arg stepped closer to the containment door, resting a calloused hand against the cold panel. "Can you isolate the signature and build a trace profile?" Kara nodded slowly. "Already started, but I think it's evolving. It's just not repeating its last pulse. Each one is slightly different, like it's trying different keys against us." Holt grunted. "What happens if it finds the one that fits?" Nobody answered. Later in the control deck, the ship drifted on thruster-only power, no core burn. Kara sat surrounded by glowing interface panels, eyes narrowed. She pulled up the latest sensor scan. A ripple of low-band energy had spread outward from the seed not long after the last jump. Unlike previous pulses, this one hadn't stopped. It kept going, weak, diffuse, but constant, almost like a beacon. Arg paced nearby, restless. "Is it signaling something? Or listening?" "Both," Kara muttered. "And maybe neither. Watch." She tapped a few commands, and a rough volumetric display shimmered into shape above the central table. Not a map of known space. This wasn't Belt or Union territory. The view extended far past the Oort line, deep into unmapped, unregulated space. Kara had layered data from Rel's transmission with trace elements of the seed's pulse, and then she activated the filter. Slowly, patterns emerged. Points of energy flickered across the dark expanse. Dozens, maybe more. "What am I looking at?" Holt asked, stepping up beside her. Kara's voice was quiet. "Echoes. Sites like this one. Whatever network the seed belonged to, there are others. We just haven't known how to listen." Arg leaned in, eyes hard. "Are these active?" "No. Dormant. For now. But they've all responded, just slightly, to this seed signal." Holt stared at the map, his voice flat. "Jesus." Arg didn't speak at first. His mind reeled back to the first time he'd touched the seed, back in that frozen Helix ruin beyond the edge of any sane chart. He remembered the memories it had shown him, images he knew weren't his. And now there were more. "How many of these things are out there?" he asked. "I don't know," Kara whispered, "but they weren't meant to stay asleep forever." That night, if it could be called night in deep space, Arg sat alone in the small crew galley, staring at the thin metal cup of recycled synth coffee in his hands. The thrum of the ship was distant. The crew was quiet. He pulled the recorder from his belt and turned it on. Void Miner, personal log, entry 943, maps of the dead. There's something ancient out here, older than Helix, older than the belt, older than anything with human fingerprints on it. We used to think the void was empty, just rocks, radiation, wreckage. But I think the void's full of bones, just not the kind we're used to burying. Kara cracked the seed up again today. It lit up a ghost map. Not one or two sites. Dozens. A net. A system. Whatever these things are, they were placed intentionally. And they're waking up. If this was part of some forgotten war, some long-dead machine intelligence reaching across time, then we're not spectators anymore. We're standing on their battlefield. He turned the log off, let the silence settle back in. The following day, Kara ran another sweep, this time in tighter focus around the new pulse frequency. What she found stopped them cold. "Arg," she called sharply. "Get in here." When he reached the deck, Kara was pale again, fingers twitching nervously against the display. "It's projecting." "What do you mean?" "The seed. It's not just sending pulses, it's pushing something into the environment. Look." She triggered the interface, and a faded three-dimensional projection shimmered into life. Angular, low resolution, with symbols that couldn't translate. It wasn't random. It was a map. A full star map. Not of human systems, but something older, stranger. Sparse constellations, dead coordinates, paths between stars that didn't exist anymore. And scattered across it, faint glyphs. The same ones etched on the seed's surface, the same ones they'd seen on the ruined Helix station. A language, maybe, a navigation system, or both. Holt whistled low. "You think this is what the seed was made to do?" Arg shook his head. "No. I think this is one of those things it can do." He stared at the map, at those flickering nodes scattered like mines across forgotten space. A warning, maybe, or an invitation. "We need to hit one of those sites," he said. "We need to see what they left behind." Kara didn't look up. Her voice came soft, distant. "We're already inside it, Arg. The map is not just showing us where to go, it's showing us where we've been." Arg felt the weight of her words like a cold knife against his spine. He looked again at the projection. One of the glyphs was pulsing brighter than the others. It was the same coordinates where they'd found the first seed. The past wasn't just echoing through the seed. It was tracking them. Watching, maybe judging. And they had no idea what would happen next. Chapter 7. Echoes in the Lie. The dust would have drifted on the dark edge of belt space, its engines cold and her lights dimmed to mimic the void around her. The seed had gone dormant again, or appeared to, but the projection it had flared across Kara Station's interface still lingered in their minds. A map of sister sites, scattered like bone fragments across the system. Arg stood hunched over the console table in the galley, shoulders stiff with fatigue, eyes red-rimmed from sleepless hours spent trying to decode the meaning behind the projections. Holt sat beside him, silent but present, flicking through old Union manifests and encrypted data transmissions. Kara hovered in the doorway, arms crossed, her face gaunt and pale since the seed's latest surge. "We're missing something," Arg muttered, his voice raw. "The seed isn't just revealing sights, it's choosing which ones to show." Kara didn't respond. She hadn't said much since the projection. The seed had done something to her, subtle but growing. She was more distant, her focus drifting in and out. Her speech clipped when she bothered to speak at all. Then the alert chimed. A short-range, encrypted ping, non-directional, bouncing off the void like a whisper too faint to trace. Holt leaned in, It's Union Protocol, he said, but it's old. A burned back format they stopped using 4 years ago. Arg narrowed his eyes. Play it. The transmission was broken, static fuzzed, glitch chopped, as if someone had recorded it through layers of corrupted memory. Don't know how long I have. They fed us the list years ago. Just a file drop, no source, no signature. We were told it was intelligence, verified, but no one knew where it came from. I thought maybe EarthGov, a deep cell op, but no, it came earlier, before Helix fell, before the uprising. Holt stiffened. That voice, that's Terran Vex. Kara blinked. Who? He was Union counterintelligence, black badge. He vanished after the Helix burnout started. They said he defected, but no one could confirm it. Arg didn't speak. He just kept listening. It was seeded into both sides, Belt and Union. Different names, different versions. But the format was the same. The signatures matched. The Collaborator List wasn't born out of Helix. It was planted, like a virus. It was meant to split us before we ever had a chance. The message cut off, static swallowing the final words. Silence hung thick. Kara finally said, This was recorded years ago. If this is real, it means something, was pulling strings even before the war started. Ark stood up slowly. His hands were clenched into fists. We find him. If he's still breathing, he knows who wrote the damn list. Holt shook his head. He's not on any grid. No known movement since Luna. If we want to trace him, we'll have to dig where the Union doesn't want us. Ark was already walking to the comms array. Then we dig. It took them 16 hours to track down the relay packet that had carried Vex's old message. Holt sliced through a dozen ghost satellites, rerouting firewalled Union archives until he hit a buried signal node linked to a station of Tarsus 4, a minor Union port repurposed after the Helix collapse. Arg knew the place, a scarred ring hub just above the red atmosphere world. He'd run ore through it once or twice before the war. The Union had used it as a forward staging point, long since abandoned, supposedly. But the node was still active, broadcasting in the old format. You think he's still alive? Kara asked, her voice distant. I think someone wants us to know what they buried, Arg replied. The Dust Widow reached Tarsus 4 after a brutal burn. They had to cut wide arcs around 2 EarthGov beacons and a known pirate nest at Yaren's Divide. Holt handled the piloting for once, giving Arg time to prepare the infiltration protocols. Kara spent most of the journey silent in the med bay, locked away with the seed. She'd started recording her thoughts, hours of them, spoken aloud into empty air. When Arg finally entered the ring hub, it was dead quiet. Lights flickered, no active life signs. The place smelled like old lubricant and ozone. But someone had left a data trail. Room 6A, sealed, but not rusted. Arg forced the door with an old miner's override and stepped into a room lined with scavenged Union gear. The terminal still hummed. It took Holt 3 minutes to access the encrypted logs. The data was compressed into audio packets, hundreds of them. Vex's voice again, desperate, ragged. They used us, used me. I gave them names, watched them burned. But when I asked who compiled the list, they shut me down. The name was blacked out, even to top-level clearance. I found a tag, only once. DM1, nothing else. I think it stands for Division Meridian. Arg's blood ran cold. Holt looked over at him. You ever heard that name before? Arg shook his head. But it sounds like EarthGov. Kara stood just behind them, her voice soft. Division Meridian doesn't show up on any public registry, not even in Helix logs. If it exists, it's buried deep. The message continued. It wasn't about justice. It wasn't even about revenge. The list was meant to rot us from the inside. They wanted us paranoid, broken, easy to manipulate. My name was never on the list, but I think they wanted me to read it, so I'd become part of the rot. I'm going dark. If anyone hears this, if anyone still gives a damn, stop them. The file ended. Back on the Dust Widow, Arg sat alone in the recording booth. The camera blinked red. His face was tired, eyes hollow, beard grown in jagged gray streaks. He didn't say his name this time. This isn't a broadcast for followers. This isn't for sympathy. You've all seen the list. Some of you lost everything because of it. Others, maybe you made it out clean. He stared into the lens. But that list, it wasn't ours. It wasn't the Belts. It wasn't the Union. It was given to us, fed like a poison, and I think we all drank it. He reached forward and cut the feed. Outside, the seed pulsed quietly below decks. And far from the Dust Widow, something ancient stirred, its thoughts shifting across the dormant network, watching, listening, waiting. Chapter 8. Isolation Protocol. The Dust Widow drifted in silence, its hull lights dimmed to a low burn, like the dying coals of an exhausted fire. A few meters away, the seed sat sealed inside a magnetic stasis lock below the lower deck, contained, shielded, but far from dormant. No matter what kind of shielding Holt ran, no matter how much distant Arg tried to put between it and the crew, it bled tension into the walls of the ship like heat through thin steel. Kara hadn't come out of her berth in nearly 6 hours. Arg stood alone in the galley, half a cup of black synth brew, going cold in his hands. He didn't sip it, just stared at the swirling oil sheen on top and listened to the distant hum of the Widow's aging reactors. He could feel the wrongness inside the ship now. It had nothing to do with the system faults. She's not sleeping, Holt muttered from behind, his voice low and uncertain. Arg turned slightly, but didn't face him. I know. She's dreaming when she's awake, talking in loops. Sometimes not talking at all. Is she lucid? Depends on the hour. The galley went quiet again. Arg set the synth brew down. This is my fault. I let it stay too close. We didn't have a choice, Holt said. It started showing up the sights. That's why we kept it on board. That's why she kept going. Arg finally turned, staring at Holt with weary, bloodshot eyes. She believed it could be understood, that maybe it wanted to be understood. And you didn't? I don't believe in machines that want anything except what they're built for. Arg's voice dropped to gravel. And this thing wasn't built by us. The projector map had been the last straw. Kara's proximity to the seed had triggered something. Some stored code, some primitive awareness. It wasn't just data anymore. It was reacting, learning them, using them. Since that night, Kara hadn't been the same. Arg had hoped a little space would settle things, but days had passed, and her behavior only grew more erratic. Sleep patterns disintegrated, food untouched. And when she did speak, it was in fragments of half-remembered things. Childhood stories she couldn't have shared. Dreams she didn't remember dreaming. Something inside the seed was reaching back. Arg grabbed the edge of the metal counter. We isolated. Holt blinked. What? We moved the seed to external storage. Midship cargo lock, full radiation shielding, mag sealed. Nobody goes near it. She's not going to like that, Holt said quietly. You know how hard she fought to stay close to it. She thinks she can hear it. Ark's jaw tightened. That's exactly why it needs to be locked away. I'm not losing her to this thing. Holt didn't answer. The silence between them wasn't agreement or dissent. It was exhaustion. Shared weariness. She's stronger than that, Ark added. Yeah, Holt said. But even steel breaks if it's bent long enough. They both looked toward the corridor that led to the crew quarters. The hum of the ship continued, faint, indifferent, eternal. Void Miner broadcast, entry number 318. Dust Widow broadcast channel, delayed loop transmission. This is Arg, Dust Widow outpass system edge, day unknown, cycle unknown. Some of you have been asking why the channel's been quiet. Truth is, some things aren't meant to be shared in real time. We found something. Something older than Helix, older than the war, older than anything human hands ever shaped. It talks in ways we don't understand. It remembers things we never lived. One of us is changing. I don't know what's waiting at the end of this signal trail, but I'm starting to think this was never about finding it. Maybe it's about what it finds in us. End transmission. Kara sat cross-legged in her berth, staring at the ceiling. The room was dark except for the soft flicker of her console screen. Lines of seed data scrolled endlessly, like a language on the edge of comprehension. She hadn't input the script, it just appeared. Somewhere between code and memory. She tapped a finger against her temple. It throbbed, again, always in the same spot. Like a pulse that didn't belong to her body. She wasn't hallucinating. Not in the way others would define it. She wasn't seeing things. She was remembering things she never lived. The world felt layered now, like she could see behind the curtain of everything. As if the seed wasn't just showing information. It was lifting a veil on the universe's inner mechanisms. Fragments of a trial, she'd whispered once. Patterns, echoes, choices. She could feel herself slipping into it, and part of her didn't want to stop. The knock came soft at first. Kara, Arg's voice low and careful. She said nothing. He keyed the door open. The moment he entered, he stopped short. Kara's eyes met his, wide, alert, but unfocused. She didn't blink. We're moving the seed, Arg said. Kara tilted her head, frowning slightly. No. This isn't up for discussion. It's listening, she said, voice quiet and calm. It's curious. If we isolate it, we cut off communication. Arg crossed the room slowly, crouched down so that he could meet her at eye level. You're not sleeping, you're not eating, you're slipping away. I see things, Arg, she said. Things it wants us to see. Memories it doesn't know how to express any other way. It's not a gift, Kara. It's exposure. I can handle it. No, he said. You can't. And I'm not letting it take you. Silence. Then Kara whispered, almost apologetically. It showed me a city in orbit around a red star, hollow towers, machines tending gardens. Arg's stomach turned. It was empty, she added. No people, just echoes. He exhaled slowly. Then we move it, for now, until we understand more. Something flickered in her gaze, a flash of frustration. Then she looked away. Fine, she said softly. But don't leave it alone. It doesn't like that. Arg said nothing. He rose, nodded once to Holt, waiting just outside the hatch. and they moved. The stasis pod was sealed, triple locked, and moved to the midship airlock cargo bay. Arg rigged the area with full EM shielding, cold storage, and motion-triggered lockdowns. Kara didn't watch the transfer, but she felt it. In her bones, in her dreams. That night, she woke up screaming in a language she didn't know. And for the first time since the Helix War ended, Arg sat alone on the bridge of the Dust Widow and didn't feel like the captain. He felt like a custodian of something ancient and ticking. Chapter 9. Departures and Echoes. The science skiff Vireo was barely more than a glorified shuttle, stripped down, long-range, and crammed with modular labs. But it was fast, silent, and hard to track. Arg had picked it out from a ghost manifest of forgotten ships in a belt scrapyard months ago, gutting half its internals to add blackout systems and radiation buffering. Holt had layered on his personal flavor of paranoid firewalls, and Kara had spent sleepless days configuring its systems to interact with the seed's fragment they'd recovered. Now it was hers, an arrow aimed into the dark. Kara stood at the primary control slab, watching the Dust Widow shrink behind her on the feed. She didn't wave. Arg wouldn't have either. Too much history and too little comfort between them lately. The seed had changed things. The second fragment in particular hadn't been dormant. It pulsed. Not like a heart, but like a memory still trying to forget. The mission was simple. Trace the original signal that matched the second seed's activation frequency. It had been detected once, so faint Holt thought it was sensor noise, coming from a belt enclave known only in old Union records. Yarak's enclave, deep in the shadows of a fractured moonlet orbiting an unstable binary. It was off-grid, cold, silent, and forgotten by most. That made it perfect. That made it dangerous. She initiated the burn sequence. The Vireo kicked forward with a low growl, its engines humming like a throat trying not to scream. The nav path blinked green. 36 hours to target. 36 hours alone, with nothing but the seed and its slow creeping thoughts. Void Miner channel update. Classified log. Locked. Sender, Arg Arston. Status, not public.
Kara's gone. Took the Vero. Mission's hers now. At least this part of it. We didn't talk much before she left. I think she's scared. Not of the dark. Not even of dying. Scared of what it's doing to her. The seed's inside her thoughts now. More than she'll admit. Maybe more than I understand. I didn't stop her. Should've, maybe. Holt didn't say it out loud. But I saw it in his eyes. He thinks this is a one-way flight. Maybe he's right. Maybe we're all heading towards something we can't come back from. The seed's projecting again. But it won't show me what it showed her. It's quiet when I'm near it now. Like it's waiting. Watching. Kara, if you see this, come back. Don't let it take you too.
Kara sat at the back of the skiff now. The main lights dimmed to a deep red. The seed fragment, housed in reinforced casing Holt had lined with reactive crystal mesh, sat 6 feet from her, humming faintly. She swore she could feel it watching her. It wasn't movement. It was presence. Sleep didn't come easy. She found herself drifting, then snapping awake mid-dream. The images were vague, never clear. Shadows on walls, voices without mouths, flickers of equations she didn't know how to write. Each time, the seed would pulse faintly in response, like it knew what she'd seen or planted it there. After the third cycle of this pattern, she locked it in a magnetic isolation box Holt had welded to the skiff's stern, just in case. That helped, but only barely. Her mind wandered to Arg. to the haunted look he'd worn since they'd found the first seed. He hadn't been whole since then. She wasn't sure he would ever be again. She wasn't sure she would be either. The RX Enclave didn't appear on any standard belt charts. Kara had only found its trajectory by triangulating archive logs, comparing fuel burn rates from forgotten Union recon ships with ghost signals buried in old solar nav data. It was a miracle Holt had been able to piece it together. But now she saw it, spinning in lazy drift across the edge of a gravitational tide. It wasn't what she expected. The Enclave looked like it had been partially consumed by the rock it orbited, half buried, half broken. Several domes had imploded, their steel ribs protruding like ribs through shedded skin. No lights, no comms, no heat. A dead place. Kara brought the skiff into a slow orbit, cutting thrust to prevent any echo through the rock's dense ice. She stared through the port at which had once been a research station. Union black design, maybe pre-Helix. A generation ago, easy. There would be no help, no power, just ghosts. The seed pulsed again, this time stronger. She felt her breath catch. Onboard log, Viro. Entry personal. Docked with station exterior port 7C. Atmosphere seal integrity 41%. Internal power at less than 2%. Temperature negative 120 degrees Celsius. No life signs. Movement detected, but likely debris or automated drift. Seed fragment reacting to proximity. Stronger than before. Memory bleed increasing. Subjective hallucinations logged. The symptoms: auditory delusions, time dilation, emotional displacement. Further exposure may require psychological evaluation. Continuing mission. Entry imminent. Kara cycled the airlock manually, slipping into her suit. The hiss of her breather was louder than it should have been. The darkness beyond the port was thick, oppressive, like oil hanging in the void. She forced herself forward. Inside the RX Enclave was a graveyard. Long-dead terminals flickered as she passed, momentarily brought to life by her emergency generator. Files half-saved, reports unsent, notes on half-translated language fragments. She froze when she saw one scribbled in the margin of a lab terminal screen. Signal matches deep space anomaly tagged ORC TAC V73. Directive blocked. Repeat. Blocked. She copied it instantly. Further in, she found the data core. Most of it had been wiped, either by time or sabotage. But deep in the archive, she found a ping. A residual echo that matched the seed signature. It wasn't an entry. It wasn't a message. It was a reply. Someone, or something, had spoken back. Not through voice, through code, through memory. The seed pulsed violently, knocking her to one knee. She gasped, reaching for her helmet release out of instinct, then stopped herself. A vision bloomed behind her eyes. Not hers, not now. A chamber of white, not sterile, but sacred. A voice, not a sound, but a shape. She stumbled backwards. Alarms in her suit rang. Pulse spike. Oxygen levels surging. She slammed the emergency override, injecting a stabilizer Holden insisted she carried. Silence returned, but the seed had done something, left something. She reached into her HUD logs and saw it. A string of code. No timestamp, no source. Only a phrase. You are not the first. Kara stared into the dark, heart pounding. This mission was no longer about observation. The seed had opened a door. Now it was asking if she was ready to walk through it. Chapter 10. Broken Circles. The drop gate out of belt space spat Holt into the black with a shriek of inertia dampeners and a brief hum of exposed shielding. Then nothing. Just a wide, yawning silence and the dead gray glow of the mid-sector drift. This was outer Union space, near the ragged edge of EarthGov's old expansion corridor. Not quite the core, not quite the frontier. Just enough in between to hide a ghost. The ship Holt rode wasn't his. It was a leased courier skiff stripped down for stealth. No name, no registry, and no crew but him. Arg had pulled every favor left in the belt to acquire it, and the cost wasn't measured in credits. It was trust. People owed Arg. Fewer owed Holt. And out here, neither name meant much. He sat hunched over the cracked control console, cycling back through the burst packet they'd decrypted before he left. Rel's last data stream, fragmented, paranoid, stitched together from thousands of relays and scrubbed nodes. Rel had found something, a signature protocol embedded in the metadata of the Collaborator List, encrypted deep, buried under layers of noise, but unmistakable once you knew what to look for. It hadn't come from Helix. It had come from somewhere older. Courier tag KTAC-37, confirmed active transit. Expected contact in 5 hours 39 minutes, the ship's monotone AI reported. Holt leaned back, eyes shrunken, jaw tight. 5 hours. Enough time to get lost in his head. He reached into the narrow compartment beneath his seat and pulled out a small, dented tin box. His old field kit from the Union Special Observer Corps. Half the equipment inside was obsolete now, but he still kept it close. Not for function, for memory. His thumb found the dog tag buried in the bottom. His own. Holt Bren, blood type AB negative. The little tag was pitted and scorched along one edge, burned in the first firefight he'd ever survived. The memory hit harder than he wanted. They'd made mistakes back then, trusted wrong, killed wrong. He shook it off and keyed in the next sequence. The ship banked starboard, aligning itself with the projected intercept orbit of the courier vessel, codenamed Ishmael. EarthGov had rerouted it through neutral space under the guise of diplomatic delivery. But the logs didn't match. Holt knew better. The encryption signatures matched those Rel had flagged. This wasn't a routine run. As the stars shifted and the skiff moved on silent thrusters, Holt recorded a brief message, just in case. Arg, if you're hearing this, it means I got inside, or I didn't come back. Either way, I don't want Kara knowing about what I'm about to do. If this goes bad, let her believe I got what I came for. Don't let her carry more. He stopped, then added quietly, and if I do come back, we're going to have a talk about what this seed is doing to her. He killed the mic and slid the recorder back into its socket. 3 hours later, the Ishmael crept into range, sleek, gray, and unassuming. The ship didn't match any standard EarthGov courier specs. The design was off. Leaner, tactical. Holt's instincts twitched. This wasn't just a diplomatic runner. This was a black cell transport. He drifted in close on a perpendicular trajectory, keeping passive. The skiff's stealth plating ate up emissions, and he ran no active scan. The trick wasn't to overpower a ship like the Ishmael. It was to make them believe you weren't there until it was too late. The hatch on Holt's rear bay hissed open. He slipped into the exosuit, sleek, matte black, patched more than twice by Kara after gunfire and scrap metal skirmishes. He'd told her once he'd thrown it out. He hadn't. Her patchwork was better than most engineers' fresh builds. Time to go fishing, he muttered. The grapple node fired on silent magnetic pulse, latching onto the courier's hull, just ahead of its aft sensor plate. He reeled himself in like a parasite, careful not to jolt the hull or trigger a proximity ping. Once anchored, he began the slow, brutal process of cutting in. It took 16 minutes. Then he was inside, tight crawl space, auxiliary maintenance staff. The air inside the courier was still, filtered, cold. No crew sounds, no alerts. Holt moved like a shadow through narrow bulkheads, past sealed compartments. He had one target, the comms bank. He found it 2 decks up, high security storage in a vault sealed by biometric scan. The vault wasn't meant to be breached, but Rel had been smart. In the data he'd sent ARG, he'd included an exploit, old firmware vulnerability from a defunct EarthGov contractor. Holt uploaded it. 5 seconds of silence. Then a green light blinked. The door opened. Inside was a containment unit, hovering slightly in an anti-vibration frame. Holt didn't recognize the make, but the signature on its encrypted buffer matched the list metadata exactly. This was it. The seed node, the compiler, or carrier. He moved to extract the data drive, only to freeze as a voice echoed from behind. "Put it down," Holt turned slowly. A woman stood in the frame of the vault, tall, dark hair pulled back tight, black EarthGov flight suit with no insignia, and in her hand, an arc pistol. She didn't look surprised. She looked resigned. "You're Holt Bren," she said flatly. "Didn't think ARG would send you." Holt kept one hand near the drive. "Who the hell are you?" "Doesn't matter. You are not getting out of here with that node." He shifted his weight subtly, measuring angles. "So what? You just camp the vault? Wait for intruders? Seems inefficient." "I was waiting for someone. I just didn't think you'd come yourself." "What's in this node?" Holt asked. "Why is Earth hiding it?" She didn't answer, just stared. Then, "You think you're the only ones looking for the truth? You think this list is some great mystery?" Holt narrowed his eyes. "Isn't it?" She smiled, but it was the kind of smile people wear before pulling a trigger. "It's not a mystery, Bren. It's a design." Then she fired. He dove sideways as the arc pistol sizzled the wall behind him. Pain lanced through his ribs. He wasn't fast enough. But he rolled, ducked under the containment unit, and kicked her legs out from under her. They grappled in the narrow vault, fists and elbows and bruises and heat. Holt finally got the upper hand, drove his elbow into her throat, disarmed her, and slammed her into the wall hard enough to knock her out cold. He stared at her for a long second, then grabbed the node, activated its lock, and hauled ass back towards the breach point. The alarms were coming now, systems waking up, courier defense drones starting. As he blasted back into the vacuum, Holt triggered the remote detachment on the courier hull. The skiff reeled him in and sealed the hatch behind him with a screaming hiss. He collapsed inside the cockpit, blood running down his side. He had the node. But the way that woman looked at him, like she knew more than even Rel had guessed, made the cold in his bones settle deeper. Holt sent one transmission. "ARG, I got it. But this goes deeper. She said the list's not just planted. It's designed. Something's building it, not by accident." Then he passed out. The end of part 2 of Void Miner, Echoes of Helix.